that she is keeping up the life of the arts of New Mexico. And it was a joy to be among the spirit of the people. And I am so delighted that Harry is bringing this Latino spirit to the University of Cincinnati. And Viktor taking the aesthetics and the spirit of Latino art to the Midwest through universities, which include.
Maybe I can escape the first slide. Yeah.
All right.
And I can show you the universities. Okay.
All right.
So my name is Viktor Espinosa, but you can call me Viktor. So we are working together in a project about the art in the Midwest, Latino art in the Midwest. Maybe you realize that when we talk about Latino art or Latin American art in the United States, people mostly talk about Latino and Latin American art in Los Angeles or California, and also in the Southwest, and in New York, of course. But with this project, we are trying to bring the attention about all the many artists from Latino and Latin American background that has been working in the Midwest for many, many years. And we call those the hidden histories of Latino and Latin American artists in this area. So when this project we're trying to recuperate all those stories and put those stories in our webpage in order to create a source for many different people interested in arts in this area. So this project has been supported by the Humanities Without Walls. This is a consortium that received a grant from the Andrew Mellon Foundation. Yeah. So the universities involved in this project is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different scholars from, let's see, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 universities. Yeah.
Note that Viktor is sociologist.
I am the last one on the
Ohio
list.
State University.
So yeah, Ohio State. But let me tell you something very interesting about this project. Every member of the project have different disciplines. Gilberto Cárdenas, he's a sociologist from Notre Dame. Yeah. He has been promoting the art of Latino and Latin American art in the Midwest for many, many years to Notre Dame. But before moving to Notre Dame, he was living in Texas, in Austin. And there he had one of the first galleries that promoted Latino and Latin America in the United States before moving to the Midwest. So he has a very large trajectory of supporting, researching, collecting the Latino and Latin American art. Gilberto owns today, he's almost ready to retire, and he's the main spirit of this project. He is the PI of this project. He's almost ready to retire, maybe in the next year. Over all those years, Gilberto has accumulated a very large collection of Latino and Latin American art. And we can say that he is maybe, or maybe not maybe, he is the largest collector today of Latino and Latin American art produced in the United States in the Midwest. Today I would like to share with you, we're going to do a raffle. I have copies of one of the books that include some of the pieces that Gilberto collects in his house. And a couple of years ago, we did an exhibition at Notre Dame that include many of his pieces from his collection. So at the end, we're going to do a raffle with 3 copies of this catalog.
Now, Viktor, I want to ask you for the group what it means to you personally to have brought Latino art to the Midwest. Just tell us what this means to you.
It's something really, really important. We started doing this research in 2016. And of course, we were not really thinking about the elections when we were doing the research. We were just trying to bring attention to some Latino artists in the area. But it was very interesting. We started doing the interviews with Latino artists in Columbus. Let me see. I am in charge of this area. So I started doing interviews with artists in the area in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. And it was very interesting what was happening because suddenly we saw a reaction against the community. And this is pushing the artists to speak louder. So when I was doing the interviews, suddenly the topic about the elections came out in the conversation. It was not planned like that. So now, since we are doing the study in this moment in which tensions against the Latino community has become very radical, Now this is pushing the artists to speak out even strongly. So what does it mean about talking about or being involved in this project? It's something that is coming at the right moment. We need right now to have more spaces to open conversation with artists that speak in some ways for the communities. The communities now are facing a very difficult time. So it's very interesting how we can use art to open conversations. And this is something that was not really planned. I was telling you it was more like a recuperating hidden histories of the Latino artists in the area. But we started this project in a moment that's very complicated. So it's something that maybe we can talk about today in the conversation, especially when I pass the voice to Harry. So let me go very fast with this. I don't want to take too much time, but if you look at the people, we have many different backgrounds. We have 2 anthropologists in the team. We have an art historian. I am a sociologist. It's kind of difficult to explain what a sociologist is doing with art. Usually, the art historians are the ones in charge of talking about art. What a sociologist brings to the conversation? Something very interesting. Yeah. When you ask an art historian about art, he or she is going to tell you mostly more like it's going to be likable that he or she is going to talk to you about the most recognized artists. What an art historian study is really the art, and when the art gets to a point that deserves some attention. When a sociologist speaks about art, we are interested in the work itself, but also in the artists. So for this project, we intentionally selected artists for the interviews that were not at the top of the careers. We are interviewing also artists that are just at the beginning of the career. We have an artist in the sample from for example, from Columbus, Natalia Sanchez. She just finished her BA in arts at the CCAD. So far, she has had only exhibitions in bars in the short north. She's really at the beginning of her career. So for a sociologist, something very interesting is to see how the artists struggle to get recognition at some point. It's one of the main differences between art historians and sociologists of art. Yeah, we are interested in the process of becoming an artist, and especially in this case, of course, we're interested in the process of becoming an artist for a Latino or Latin American artist, a community that has been marginalized in society. The artists struggles themselves with this identity, because what they learn when they are surviving as an artist, looking for spaces to exhibit, looking for places to sell the art, to survive, is that if they attach the identity as a Latinos into the art, sometimes it's not good. Because they are afraid that by calling themselves Latino artists, they are going to be marginalized in the artistic community. So what I found in this group of people when we were doing the interviews is that initially they don't like to be called Latino artists. I think they don't like to be identified as a Latin American artist too, because they are afraid that those labels can marginalize them. So they would like to be recognized as anybody, as any other artist. The problem is that we are living in a society that is still, the racialization of minorities still plays a very important role in the art community. So it's very complicated, this process of negotiation, of practicing their own identities. Some artists, what they are doing, they prefer not to be even including exhibitions with Latino or Latin American artists, because they are afraid that they are going to be marginalized. Others argue that no, I have the right to claim my identity and also be recognized. So artists struggle with this double position. We still don't have a very easy solution to this, because we still live in a world, and we are seeing this today, in which still race and identity plays a role in marginalizing people because of the color of the skin. So this is something that came out in the project, and it's something that we would like to discuss maybe open with you and with Harry. Yeah. This is the beginning of a project. What we are doing now is selecting a very small sample of artists in every community. Of course, those artists are not representative of Cleveland, and not representative of Columbus, and not representative of Cincinnati. It's just a small sample that is intentionally highly diverse. Yeah, we have, for example, one story. Dante Rodriguez. He's from Cleveland. We include him in the study because he's a very particular trajectory. He was born in Mexico, but he was adopted as a baby when he was a couple months old by a Puerto Rican family. So he was removed from Mexico, from a very poor state, moved into the United States, into Cleveland, in a Cleveland neighborhood, and grew up in a Puerto Rican family all his life. It was until his 20s when finally he found out that he was not Puerto Rican, that he was Mexican. And he grew up in a community where the Puerto Rican community and the Mexican community have been fighting for years for the resources, because the Mexican community has a very large number of undocumented people. Puerto Ricans is like a colony from the United States, where one of the advantages is that they became citizens automatically because belong to the United States. So in the communities, in the Latino communities, there's a Latino spirit, but there's also competition for the resources because they are very scarce, those resources. So traditionally, Puerto Ricans and Mexicans have been like fighting each other, making jokes about the other ones. Puerto Ricans like to call them mojados or illegals to the Mexicans because they are not. So Dante grew up in this environment, competing with the Mexicans, making jokes against the Mexicans. Yeah? And then finally, one day he realized his mom told him, no, sorry, but you are not Puerto Rican, you are Mexican. And then he began a very strong struggle with his own identity, and the only way to deal with this was through art. So Dante became an artist. Now he works for the Cincinnati Museum of Art, and then he also is an artist. He had a gallery in Cincinnati, and now you look his art, Dante's art. Cleveland. The Cleveland Museum of Art. And then you see Dante's art, he's always struggling with this double, multiple identity. He calls himself now a Mexican, Puerto Rican, American artist. Because he even didn't know that he was born outside the United States. He was a baby when he was brought to the United States. And he grew up speaking English all his life. Dante doesn't speak very much Spanish. So he is what? He's Mexican, Puerto Rican, American. You know what I mean? So we intentionally selected him because this is a very interesting story that can tell us many things about the struggles about this community and how they use the art to express all those struggles.
Can we take a moment
Yes.
to hear
So
how
let me pass the microphone to Harry.
Yeah.
Harry is the last one in the list. And he also has a very interesting story to share. Besides his art, of course.
I
We're going
love
to share.
this story, Harry.
Yes.
Don't forget to tell us what attracted you to Cincinnati.
Yes. So I want to show you some of these images from Harry.
Okay.
I have a couple images.
Okay. How y'all doing? My name is Harry Sanchez Jr. I'm from El Paso, Texas, which is on the border with Juarez, Mexico. We are the largest sister cities in the world that share the same border, and at night it looks like one really big city. So I grew up for the beginning of my life in an area that was divided just by an imaginary line. So it was.
You want to talk more into that microphone?
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
I don't like to get too loud. So like that. So I grew up in an area that was two different countries in the same area, but I was, I identified as a Mexican or a Hispanic, but I was still born in this country as an American. So I grew up not being Mexican enough for Mexicans and not American enough for Americans. So that's kind of a funny gray area that I grew up in my life, starting near the border and moving to Kentucky, moving to New Jersey, New York State, Pennsylvania, Texas a couple times. So I've lived around the country with many different places and many different kinds of people. So I've gotten used to being around people who don't look like me and identifying with other kinds of people and understanding many other different kinds of people. So my word comes from the double identity of being a Mexican American and being part of both. So what I started doing with some of my art, and when it comes to painting, and this is why it's the roses up, is because it's made of oil paint, and that I use with cake decorating tools. Because at some point I started making cakes and cupcakes as a small business with my mom. So we would do cakes and cupcakes for a couple of years while I was in my undergrad, finishing up my art degree. So this is an oil paint flower. And I'm really attracted to the sculptural aspect of a material that's not used in a sculptural way. So this paint takes on a dual identity of a painting and a sculpture. much the way I have a dual identity myself. And then based from that, in the middle of the rose, it starts with a dot. And there was something that I found very attractive about the dot. And a lot of times colors for me are representational for us and people. And this is all the same material, the same shape, just different colors. And to me, it doesn't matter. The fact that they're different colors, it's all the same thing, they're all equal. Just like us, like our skin color doesn't matter, we're all people, we're all internally the same way. So I was very attracted to the gradations of color, in which I was using the Fibonacci sequence, which is also part of sacred geometry, the nature of people, of the way things are built. And this is another one of my Fibonacci ones, which I expanded a little bit more on the shape and the sizes of the dots and that kind of stuff. And again, this is based from cake decorating tools, pastry tools that I use when I make my work. You can keep going? Or?
It's up to you.
Okay, yeah. And then here's just another image of one of my paintings. And when I got to grad school, I started working. Before grad school, I didn't want to be political. I didn't want to work with that kind of stuff. It was a choice I chose not to make, and as Viktor pointed out, I chose not to make work that was about being Hispanic, because like he said, I didn't want to get pigeonholed into being somebody of Hispanic descent or Mexican American descent, and that's the only work I can make, and that people would think that that's the only work that I would want to make is about that. But I identify a lot more with my experience in this country as an American, not just Hispanic American. So my work started out, I started doing work about half-toning and dual natures of people and identities, and which way they're perceived and the perceptions of people on them and the way they give to themselves. So I started dealing with whistleblowers and the securities of ourselves in the country that were violated with Edward Snowden and the releasing of the information from national security agencies. So I started doing a lot of work and researching on whistleblowers, and I was very attracted to them having the same label as a hero and a traitor, depending on what side you look at. Like us, I'm either a Mexican or American, depending on what side I am looked at from different kind of people. So I started doing this half-toning, and it's something that is carried out through my work. Since then, a lot of dots and a lot of lines. When lines for me, I just lived on the Mexican border, that line. I live right now on the Mason-Dixon line. I grew up around correctional institutes with my father, so I was used to seeing prison bars, fences, being next to the border, seeing the big fence next to my college every day. So I got very attuned to seeing borders and lines and that kind of stuff, and that's something that just worked its way into my work still to this day. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Why don't you share this again? The last thing, we invited Harry for something very, very particular. In this project, we are collecting stories. We are interviewing the artists. We're doing videos and then putting those in our web page, and then people can have access to those stories. This project also includes, we want to publish a book, of course. We're using those stories. But also this project includes an invitation of the artists to the Segura studio in Notre Dame to produce monotypes. So then we use the monotypes that the artists are producing to have panels and conversation with the community. So in September 30th, we're going to have a conversation here in this place, showing all the manner of prints produced during this project and inviting some of the artists to have a conversation with us, similar to this one, but with more artists from this area. So this project also includes those, the production of monotypes, focusing on the topics of borders, migration, and transnationality, and then open the conversation with the community. So Harry was one of those artists that was invited to the Segura studio, arts studio in Notre Dame, and he spent 2 days working with the artists from Cleveland and Columbus in producing those monotypes. So the big point of this conversation is to let Harry to share this experience about producing art together with members of the Latino artistic community. Yeah? Can we pass to the images from the different folder? There is a folder in the...
Okay, so this, when we went to the residency, the idea of it was going to be making something that has to do with the immigration, transnationality, and that kind of stuff. So what's obviously been a hot topic, and something that's really been on my mind in the past couple months, is the immigration and the deportation that they're doing of undocumented illegals, and not just undocumented illegals, the ones with no criminal record. If they want to deport a gang member who's violated the laws in this country and done wrong things and hurt people, I'm not against that. But what I am completely against is the government separating families and taking mothers and fathers away from their children who have not committed any crimes. To me, I think that's one of the most disgusting things our government has done recently, and it makes me very embarrassed sometimes to even be a citizen of the country with some of the things that you're doing. It's very embarrassing for the world to see what we're doing. And it's, especially since most of these people look like me and they're from the same background that I am, it's touched me a lot. And even looking at these images and researching what I wanted to make hit me very hard, and you know, almost caused me to break down a couple times, because I can't see these people ripped apart from their family and not have an emotional toll on me. So this work for me was very, very close to my home. So this was one of the undocumented illegals during a protest holding up a sign that says, "Don't destroy my family." And no. Okay, it just goes kind of slow. So, I mean, right there you can see the border fence. This is something that I see. So this is something I would see all the time, something like this. So you can see why at some point my work became influenced with lines. And not just lines, but lines breaking up the image and the way we see things. So this is actually a father from Ohio. He was one of the big cases in the beginning when it all started, because he was one of the ones that does not have a criminal record, but yet he was still deported. And in this image, he was, I believe, at the airport saying goodbye to his family because he was about to be deported. And with this, I chose the colors of red and green, obviously, because they're the two colors that are on the Mexican flag, but also because the halftone images works with white and black. And in order to create the black stripes representative of the bars and the deportation, the red and green, when layered over each other, create black. But it also, you see remnants of the green and the red layered over each other, which I wanted to give reference to the Mexican flag. But in these two images, I wanted to have the overlaid where one was the father with the color and one was with the son. But they were both the same image of the family being ripped apart by this. And this was a work in progress at the time. This was these are actually the children of one of the family, of the mother who was being deported. Again, another one without a criminal record. And this one I chose because of the way he was holding his hands in front of him, almost like if he's the criminal, like if he's done something wrong. So this was during the process where I would ink it up, and I had the picture underneath and I would erase so that you could see the image. And then from that we would ink it up and pull it, and you would see it layered like it was on the other ones. I don't know, but yeah.
It's not moving.
No, it's not really going. But that.
Escape under the mouse.
Okay. Okay. This ended up being the final product of that work in progress. So you can see here again, I used the back ripping as a representation of the families being ripped apart, the bars looking like the border fences, and then children. This was them side by side. The other one. Again, another father who was taken from his family. This was in the beginning when they were showing me the process of how the monotypes work. This is actually the studio. So it's a really nice studio. It was very nice for them to give us this space and let us work for those 2 days. Even though it was two tough days, I got a lot of really good experience from this. So those are the prints that I have pictures for. and kind of talk about what I was doing with my idea when I was there at the residency. So that's kind of what I have about that for right now. I don't know if they'll have questions afterwards.
Very moving, Harry.
Thank you.
So maybe we can open the conversation to
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah, I'm open to it. Do you need to see the slideshow anymore?
No, I don't need more.
Want to have discussion?
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can open maybe questions, maybe.
I project them onto a screen, and then I very carefully squeeze out the correct amount of paint so that it's the correct size dot and not any bigger or smaller than I need it. So very carefully, basically.
Especially when you are using the dots to produce portraits.
Yes.
It has to be very
Yeah, when I use the dots,
size.
it has to be, yeah, like I said, it has to be all correct. It can't be too big or too small because then the image it'll look like something's off. So it has to be very, very precise. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any plans for that work to be shown around?
I would like to, I just finished it a couple weeks ago, and I think it's still at the studio, but I would definitely like to show it. I'm gonna propose it for Notre Dame. I would like, and not only that, I would like to continue the body of work.
Where would you go with that, to propose that, Harry? Where are you going to put that, because it's so timely?
I know, I mean everywhere, really, and I would like to approach a lot of Hispanic cultural centers or museums and galleries in the country. I think sometimes I need to aim a little bit higher than where I'm at. So I would definitely like to see this in larger cities where there's more Hispanics. They can see the work and see that there's other people out there like them who have voices, who are speaking, because there's not a lot of Hispanics in the art world, and there's not a lot of Hispanics whose work is seen a lot. So it's very important for our voices to be seen and heard, especially where we're not at. If all we do is make work in the Southwest along the border, it's just an echo chamber. Like, we're talking to ourselves and we know what we want to say, but it's more important for people who don't know us and who's never been around us to see that we're like them. We do the same things that they do. We eat the same food. We just want to live life like everybody else. I've said that I don't regret, because a lot of them came true, and a lot of warnings that I was telling people about some of the things they're going after, they're going to go after, and that's what they've been doing. So I don't look as bad as I did before when people, were saying I was just being insightful and this and that. Like, no, I wasn't. I care about this country and I care about the people in it. And not only that, I care about every single freedom that we have, that my uncle fought for in Vietnam, that my grandfather fought for in Germany. I understand that the